Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Life List, a birding podcast. I am George Armistead, and I am here with both Molly Brown and Alvaro Jaramillo. Guys, how you doing today?
Hi.
Well, this is our first nocturnal recording, I think.
Yeah.
This is after hours recording.
Speak for yourselves. It's it's still bright out here, you know.
That's true.
That's
West Coast time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been dark here for like an hour and a half, 2 hours or something.
Yeah, it has.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, Yeah. I guess it's that time of year, right?
It gets dark.
Short.
That's right. It gets dark early and stays dark kind of late, although that's going to change next week with the time change. But
It's going to change for you because you're going to be in Antarctica.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's Alvaro and I are very much on the countdown to that cruise, which is coming up. We are, Alva, you leave on just a couple days. I leave the day after you, I think. I leave on Saturday. I think you leave on the Friday, yeah?
Yeah. I have a pre-tour, little 2-day thing to go and see a few things in Argentina, Patagonia, and so then we, and also gives us time to have, all of us arrive on time and all that, and luggage, as we all know, that can be a concern when you're going on a tour.
Absolutely. What's your pre-tour target bird, Alvaro?
Pre-tour target bird. I was going to say pre-tour target food, asado de tira, which is it's a grilled, bit of, it's ribs, it's beef ribs. It's actually kind of nice and it's kind of salty and it's got a little flavorful fat, but birds, you say. That part of Argentina has the Magellanic woodpecker. So,
yes.
Folks do want to see that big time. I try to downplay it because I feel like the more you think about the woodpecker, the less you have the karma to find it. Because they're not rare, but they're kind of like pileated, sometimes you just can't find them.
Yeah.
And if I had to sort of point to the one bird, that I think I'd like to see that I haven't seen very many times would be the white-bellied seed snipe.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think there might be too much snow to get up to where they are. I don't know. We'll see.
Depends. Yeah, it depends. If it's a certain amount of snow can be good because it can keep them down a little bit lower, but you'll have to see.
Yeah. I'll have to see.
It's a fun 2 days. Well, when this comes out, you'll both be cruising along. So
we'll be somewhere probably like close to the Falkland Islands or something.
Yeah,
maybe even I don't know. Yeah, I can't do that math. Not that smart.
Too late for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
How long does it take you to get to the Falklands?
It's like a day,
couple
right?
days. Yeah. I want to say it's like close to 2 days, something like that.
A day and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
We kind of start out at night, right? Yeah. So there's kind of a night, then a full 24 hours.
Full day at
plus.
sea.
Yeah.
Then I think we wake up there, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. We'll be looking for the tussock bird and Cobb's wren and seeing black-browed albatross colonies with rockhopper penguin colonies, and then on to South Georgia, and then on to the peninsula, and hopefully some whales here and there. But we'll talk more about all that in the not too distant future. We're planning to do a little recording while we're steaming out at sea out there. So that'll be hopefully something folks will look forward to hearing about. But big bunch of us from Rock Jumper, Alvaro. 190 folks on board. So a lot of birders. Yeah, American Birding Association, Alvaro's Adventures, Rock Jumper, all sorts of folks. So, well, Molly Brown, what's going on in West Virginia?
You know what? I have been more in mammal mode than I have been in bird mode recently.
Yes, I saw that?
Yeah, dropped a video on Facebook the other day. But just because I got a new trail camera and I'm just very much sidetracked on like the art of positioning the trail camera, and it's just so slow. Our property that we have here in West Virginia is like 25 minutes from where we live now. So until we get a house built on it, we're just driving up once or twice a week, and that's becoming less now that the days are getting shorter. So there's like so much intention and strategy that goes into every visit that I make now, and I like position the camera a little bit differently. We're not baiting anything, but we've had some fun mammals so far. I've had that for 6 weeks, so
Wow.
that's been most of my time.
That was a pretty sweet little mashup vid you put out there.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, it looks like you're doing it right, because man, Fisher is one of my most wanted mammals. Did you think it was one animal or two?
Honestly, I think it's two. Because I looked at those videos. I got 2 videos in the same night. And so it records photo and video on that trail cam. And it missed video of something that we had a few days before. And I thought it looked like a beaver. It was kind of a nighttime blurry photo. And I didn't think it was a fisher, but I wanted it to be a fisher. And then we got good video the next day. But I think one's much bigger than the other. And I have a video of one at nighttime and one in the daytime. And the pattern on the coat looks a little different too. Although it's hard to tell. So I don't know. I went on a huge deep dive of research, and the range can cover up to 15 square miles. So I doubt that they're spending a whole lot of time on our property. I don't think that we really have enough trees that are mature enough to really sustain them. But I don't know if they'll be back or not. They haven't been since I got those videos. But yeah, fishers and a lot of other cool mammals. I think we were at, 12 mammal species or something on the camera. So that's fun. But that was the best find.
Yeah, that is amazing. There's been a reintroduction program of them here in Pennsylvania. And they've done quite well. From what I understand, I think the northern tier of counties here in Pennsylvania, it's a pretty good place now to find fishers. Some friends of mine that used to live up there, I remember them saying they'd see them crossing the road every now and then, or every now and then you see a roadkill, which is of course a real bummer. But we have minks around here in Philadelphia area. Yeah. And people, will, periodically report. They're like, I got a fisher. And it's like always a mink. It's like every single time I've seen it's like a mink. And you try to tell them, and they're like, no, I have on good authority that this is a fisher. And I want to be like, okay, all right, But yeah, that's high on my list. Mustelids in general are like up there with cetaceans, along with birds for me. Cats, cetaceans, and mustelids.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great group.
Well, I have yet to see one in person, but this feels kind of as good as seeing one.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a topic we'll dive into on the bird side here in a bit, talking about life and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good teaser there.
I don't know if I count that as a life mammal or not, actually.
Yeah.
So I've got, I was like shocked. And I was like, this can't be, because my thought was like fishers are in the boreal forest. I always think of them as like way up north. Yeah. And then like, I'm looking at, I'm even looking at iNaturalist and stuff. And there's all of these lowland, not even just in the mountains of, Pennsylvania to West Virginia and stuff, but in the lowlands, like even in like near Buffalo in New York State. Then I'm thinking like, that makes no sense. Yet then on the Canadian side, actually, they're more restricted. They're actually up a little further north, fewer records in that sort of lowland area. And is there any evidence that they're spreading? That's
I don't know if they're spreading in range, but certainly in population. I think there was a huge drop off 200 or 100 to 200 years ago from a mix of the fur trade and deforestation and just habitat loss because they need mature forests. I was looking at that, Alvaro, and I didn't dig in, but I saw there was an isolated population in California, though.
Oh, really?
And kind of over your way, I believe.
Yeah, I mean,
if I'm remembering correctly.
I see them now here. I've actually seen martin, like in
Pine martin,
California. Yeah, but yeah, that's all surprising. I know fishers love eating porcupine though.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have porcupine.
So what do they
They're
eat
not
there,
too
then?
far from here. You know, from what I saw, they eat everything. I mean, I
Probably
think that they're a
possum,
real.
maybe, and
Mm-hmm. I saw
Is
that
it-
they're one that actually gives dogs trouble. Probably more than a lot of other mammals that people think are like. I'd
It's
say
sort of
more
like a
than
mini-
hawks, perhaps.
it's like a mini
Is
honey
it true
badger,
that?
you know?
Yeah, like they do everything. Yeah,
Yeah, they don't,
Yeah.
they don't give a
slap
rat's
snakes
ass.
around.
Yeah, exactly. Cobras, whatever, Maybe
Yeah.
not the
Is
fishers.
it true that they snap one of the quills from a porcupine and clean their teeth with it? Is that true?
That's a factual statement. Yeah, I've heard that
I'm glad
often.
we teach people
Mhm.
things on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's not
No,
true,
I think
everybody. Come on.
but I do think
I just made that up.
Alvaro, I feel like you probably, and Molly, maybe on your digging, you saw this as well, but that the name Fisher, I think, derives from like a French word for this animal or something. And that, that I think that's how the name arose, but they don't have anything to do with fish. As you said, Alvaro, they like porcupine, and I suspect they get after, probably some birds and quite a few other rodents, I imagine. But I know they like porcupine a bunch. But yeah, Maryland, I think the Pennsylvania, reintroduction program, I don't know how that works exactly, but I know that I saw on the Maryland Biodiversity Project, which is a pretty amazing project. They basically track all wildlife, in its history in the state of Maryland. And I remember seeing, I want to say it was 2-3 years ago, that they had Maryland's first documented fisher in like 70 years or something like that. And they sort of, my recollection is they indicated that as Molly said, the populations of Pennsylvania were starting to grow, and that maybe they were kind of pushing south a bit more. But yeah, interesting stuff. More Mostellas would be fun.
Yeah, you're talking about names, and I recently learned, I haven't confirmed this, the crowd maybe can confirm this, that the name mallard, which, we've used forever, and you always wonder, like, what does that mean, And it comes from, like, male, like, for the male part, and the ard is sort of like dullard, or, like, it's basically a malard, like, it's just a real male thing. And I thought, that's a weird name. Like, it's just sort of male bird, is what the name implies. And I thought, that is weird. It's a really old name, like not recent, obviously. And it may come from, Romance language mixed with sort of, Old English or something. But I'd like to know, because it is a weird name, mallard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always assumed it was, French origin somehow. So I did look up the Fisher. It says the name comes from the colonial Dutch equivalent Vissa or Vissa. I don't know how to pronounce that. Fisse.
Oh,
in the French language,
is like a mink, right?
Yeah, it says it's in the French language. The pelt of a polecat is also called a fisha or a fichet.
That's why it's Mostella Vissen, like Visson for mink. It's the same word then, Vissen fisher.
Yeah, same root.
Different species, huh?
Although now it's Picania pennanti. Looks like they've changed the.
No, for mink.
Yeah, the whole families.
Yeah.
But that whole family's, I think, undergone taxonomic changes recently. Like all weasels and otters, I think a lot of them have changed.
So
from what I saw on INET.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, cool bunch of animals. Very cool. Yeah. I was very jealous of that, Molly, when I saw that. I was like, oh, she's got Fisher on place.
I had to show that off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, I have been doing next to no birding the last week or so.
What?
Yeah,
this is your favorite season.
It is. That's true. I did do a little bit of
action.
I know. I did do a teeny bit of yard birding, and I am pleased to announce that I broke the century mark for the yard here. I was sitting at 99 for like a month or something, and I added, and the best new addition is I had a flock of brant flying over way up high. I was like looking for hawks. We actually had a big day for red-shouldered hawks moving through. A bunch of people, Ashland Hawk Watch, I saw in northern Delaware, they had a record day of like 140 or so. Here in Philly, my buddy Liam Hart, he had 40 or so pass by his place. I just looked for a couple hours and I had like 26 of them. So I was looking at hawks, and all of a sudden I'm like scanning way up high, and I see this flock of 16 brant, like way up there. So that was pretty awesome. I did manage to get some pics where you could actually tell what it was. So that was definitely one of my best yard birds to date. But otherwise around here, it's been a lot of time watching sports because the Philadelphia Phillies are in the World Series. That is not a joke. That is a true statement. First time since 2010, they're back in the World Series. I don't know where this team came from. I was talking to my mom the other day, and I said, "Mom, I don't know what's happened to our baseball team, but I like it, and it has really been something." And at the same time, my Philadelphia Eagles are 7-0, undefeated, best record in football. And the Philadelphia Union are going to the finals. So it is pretty much nirvana in sports right now here in Philadelphia. Not that you guys can.
I wouldn't offend half the world.
That's a thought you have quite frequently. I understand.
Yeah. I took like Pablo, my son, when he was kind of interested, dabbling in various other sports, I took him to see a couple of Major League Baseball games, in San Francisco. And I did not find it exciting whatsoever. And I got to say that I thought, okay, I've watched this on TV. It's not exciting. Obviously, when I get there live, it's going to be exciting. But it wasn't. And I just like... And I wonder if there's some sports, maybe cricket also might be one.
Yeah.
Maybe, that you just, you got to be born into, like, sort of have the knowledge of everything that's going on early in your life to understand it all and kind of get it so that you're really invested in it. Now, I'm not a particularly like sports oriented person, but on the other hand, I was in South Africa and there was some rugby, some of the sevens rugby going on TV. I was like, I couldn't keep my eyes off of that. I was looking at it, and, things are going back and forth, stuff's happening, and I was like, you're immediately kind of drawn to it. So I'm like, I hope you guys win, but I gotta say, I don't think I'm going to be watching that game tonight.
Well, we're playing the biggest cheaters in the game in the Houston Astros, well known for their cheating scandal that actually won them a World Series years ago. So I think that I kind of think the Phillies
now
are
you offended the rest of the people, who...
Yeah.
I offended all the baseball fans, and then now you've offended but...
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. It was a big mistake.
Yeah. But yeah,
you can add a prediction, and then we can see how that happens by the time this podcast comes out.
Oh, Molly, put me on the spot here, man.
I am putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
This cheaters thing, though, it's interesting because I was getting a beer the other day after the Pelagic, and there was a guy going on about cheating, and and I was like, so then I started getting interested. It's like, then I was like, how do you cheat in baseball? But then I couldn't figure that out. That's beyond my comprehension, obviously. But anyway, I hope that you guys win.
Yeah, I hope so. I
hope you get lots of touchdowns.
Yeah. Oh, Alvaro, what a disgrace! What a disgrace. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to make a prediction, Molly, but I will say this: that we're going up against a formidable team in the Astros. They definitely have a deeper team than us. But I am set to leave on the day of Game 7, and there has since been a rain delay. The game last night was rained out, so The game is I'm supposed to leave on game 6. So it would be really nice if the Phillies would wrap this up in 5 games. That would mean that they would win here in Philadelphia as well. So we will see what happens with that. But that is enough about sports probably for a birding podcast for a day.
In terms of like the sport of birding, though, one of the things I was thinking about was you're talking was, and you probably don't want to make predictions on the games that matter to you because actually it matters to you, right? And you kind of you could jinx something by making a prediction, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that you know. And I was thinking about the fact that I just went on a trip and we went by we had this store in one of the hotels that had this beautiful hat, like baseball cap, with a Magellanic woodpecker on it. And there was a person who was like, ooh, I like that, but I can't buy it because I have not seen the woodpecker yet. And if you buy the shirt or you buy the hat, it's kind of jinxes your chance of seeing the bird. And I was, I buy into that. And in a sense, it's also it's not like you can buy anything you want, but you really deserve to wear it in a sense. Once
you've earned
experience, you earned it, right?
Yeah.
Seen the whatever it is. And I was like thinking there's a lot of parallels between birds and sporting things and stuff that you do and you don't do, And that was one of them that I was thinking about with you not wanting to make predictions. Actually, because it's not about being wrong. It's probably about more swaying the cosmic outcome, right?
Yes, exactly. It's the superstitious. It is definitely the superstitious part of me is I don't want to offend the baseball gods. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of sort of the gaming aspect of birding, we had an interesting question from Fred Hochstetter. And Fred said, your podcast is titled Life List. What would you guys say, or what would anybody say necessarily, are the criteria for counting a lifer on your life list? Would it be seeing it and hearing it? Will just hearing it be okay? We'll remember, a few years ago, the ABA changed their listing rules such that herd birds count. Is if you get a quick glimpse or just see a snatch of movement that is the bird, is that good enough? What if you photograph the bird but don't realize that the bird you're photographing is a lifer until later on? Do you count that? Do you have to know what it was at the time in the field to be able to count it? So these are some interesting questions because they all raise memories of examples of birds where there is some criteria called into question. And Fred was saying, for me, herd only birds is fine for night birds and rails, but for pretty much everything else, he wants to see them for at least a little bit. I don't know, Molly. You just had a video camera only fisher. How do you would you count this on your life list, your property list? Obviously, probably that.
Yeah.
I don't know where you come down on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Ugh. Man, I really didn't think about this example before, but no, I wouldn't count a fisher on my life list. I've never seen a fisher. When I was out there the other day in the middle of the day, like several days after, I was checking every tree. I was looking for them everywhere and just hoping I was going to get lucky. And of course I didn't. But no, I started off being looser with my life list than I am now. Because when I started, I felt more pressure to have a big life list, and my life list has grown over the years. So I guess that in itself decreases some of the pressure. Also, I think I have a little bit more confidence as a birder, and I'm a little less afraid to admit that I didn't get a good look at something or that I want it not as a herd only. That being said, I don't know. I am pretty subjective. I don't have a hard set of rules of you have to check these boxes or whatever to count something for my life list. I think I want to be confident in the ID. So
Mhm.
in some cases that is a herd only. And I get kind of stressed out putting spotlights on birds and going through a lot of effort to get some of the birds like at night and rails and those types of things like was said in the
Right. Where if
email.
you might be pressuring the bird, that's not as fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I care less about that. And I really enjoy hearing birds. I mean, I get a lot of personal fulfillment out of that too. So yeah, and for like international birding or some of these trips where I'm seeing, like when I was in Colombia recently and seeing a couple hundred birds for the first time, I go back and revise the lists and pull out anything that I wasn't positive that I, remembered the moment or that type of thing. So yeah, I just do what feels right and
Yeah.
take it pretty loosely for my life list. But
Yeah. I'm kind of similar.
Going back to my property, I do have a property list so that Fisher will go on INAT for our property records. So it's recorded
Nice.
somewhere anyway.
Nice. Yeah.
I think it's easier to evaluate other people's lifers than your own, like
you can
you see
maintain some objectivity.
Right. So you as a friend tells you a story about something and you're like, well, I don't know. I wouldn't count that. Right.
Yeah.
That's what people do. It's like, what you would count it yourself if it was you, but I wouldn't count that for you, George or Molly, like, but
Yeah. It's funny. It is funny. Like, I feel like my criteria changes sort of like what Fred was saying, that like herd only birds, he's with rails or night birds that, herd only is fine for him. And I feel like that is true for me as well. Like in terms of because again, my life list is not, I think similar to you guys, it's not a big deal to me. Like I'm not a huge lister. I do want to see as much stuff as I can, but I'm not like, I'm not a hard charging lister, but there's certain, birds that I do want to see well. And one thing that I kind of remembered as you were talking, Molly, was and it was in Colombia, was the first one of my first trips there. I was standing next to Chris Wood, and he, like, we were in a big group of birders for the Cali Bird Fair, where Molly and I are heading soon. And there was like a big field trip at this place called Anchicaya, which is a really great birding area. And, you're kind of on the road there, and there's little gaps in the trees where you can see stuff. And Chris was like, oh my God, we just had like a toucan barbet like land right here. And then it dropped as I like moved over to try to see it. It dropped. And this is before, they're much easier to find there now than they were back then. And so that was it. And I didn't see it. And I was like, oh man. And it just like stuck in my craw,
Didn't see it drop or anything.
Nothing. I got nothing, and Chris like had like a, point blank beautiful view. And then like my next trip to Colombia, which was a year later or so, we were in the woods, we were in the forest, and I heard the sound, and I was like, oh wow, that's a pair of duetting toucan barbets. And the sound was just like, it just kind of knocked my socks off to hear those two going at it, duetting. And I had no problem counting that as a life bird. Like that experience to me, that is my first real toucan barbet experience. And when I think about them, that's the experience I think back to. I didn't see those birds. They were a good ways off. I've seen them since quite a few times, but well, yeah, when I think about my life experience, that was a herd only bird that feels, genuine and real to me.
That's a great example. Okay, going back to that first case when it dropped. Say you had just seen a shape sort of drop. Would you have rather have had that happen or have not seen the bird at all? And
yeah,
what if
I
it
don't
had?
know. Yeah. I guess if in terms of like counting it, like there's some things I'm happy to count on an eBird list, as having seen, even if I didn't really see it that great, knowing what it was, something like that, where if, I might have been okay with that, keeping that bird on my eBird list if I saw some flicker of it. But in terms of like a life look, I don't think that would have qualified for me,
Yep, I do know what you mean.
Yeah, I think, and you were talking about your property list. I think because that's the list I care about, my yard list and my Philadelphia list. Those are my two lists that I really am avid about. This comes into play. What is countable comes into play there much more so for me than for for my life list in the world.
I was going to say that is the key, right? Because right now what the life list is whatever's on eBird, really. I mean, and I put everything I hear or detect or anything on eBird, even if something I didn't see, just heard it, what have you. But, what do you count for your yard list? Where you're sort of it's a game. There's a game there. And you don't want to cheat in the game, or you want to have some consistency in your game. So then it actually matters. So, when you see something, I have like kind of rules, I mean, for example, if I'm away from my yard and I see something fly over the yard, which I think happened once, and then it's been, second time around, I was actually in the yard. I was okay with that because it flew right over the yard, kind of thing. But I was at the end of the street once and I had a great-tailed grackle fly over, pretty good bird on the coast. I could see my house. I could see the grackle. I could see the two elements, but they weren't connected in a way that I felt was right.
You were out in no man's land.
Right. So yet, that's a little insane when you start being logical about it, because if I'm on my yard and I look out in the scope and I see a Pomeranian Jaeger fly by a mile away, I counted from my yard list. That grackle was actually closer to my yard than that Jaeger. So if I was being logical, I would not count either or count both or whatever.
Right.
But actually not counting that grackle and counting the Jaeger is a little nuts, but it's part of the rules. It's the rules I've concocted that seem right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a way I'm trying to find out what I can see from the place I live, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that?
No.
What?
Good grief, you scared me.
Oh my God. This rather large insect just dropped from the ceiling and landed right on my lap, and I levitated about 5 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Couldn't be that large. We didn't even see it.
It made you'll hear it on the recording later. It went like flap. Oh man, I thought it was a cricket, but I thought for a minute that it was a large spider, and whew, wow.
Huh, well.
You just woke me up.
Oh man. Wow. Sorry everyone.
He does get excited at times.
Every now and then, man. Wow. I did not see that coming at all. Man, I always say to people, anvils don't fall from the sky, people,
Wait, can crickets hang on the ceiling?
We had one of our
short amount of time.
Yeah, I don't know where the thing came from, honestly.
Katydid? It was a katydid.
I heard 2 katydids yesterday. First time in 5 weeks I heard katydids here. But anyway, sorry. Wow.
Well, anyway. That was weird. Because we got the visual. Weird. Yeah. The people out there didn't get the visual, but he kind of rolled back.
Levitating's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I don't know. I thought maybe a bat had gone over or something.
Yeah.
Yep, that got me pretty good. That got me good, man. Yeah. Well, to turn back to listing for a moment here. One of the big ones.
That cricket?
Yeah, I gotta find out that thing. Definitely,
it's on the podcast list now.
Yeah. I don't know where it is right now. It's probably crawling into my suitcase there over here from getting packed for Antarctica. Take it. I'll introduce it to
Tina.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll introduce it to South Georgia. Yeah.
You better check for those lantern flies, man, before you go. Jeez, you don't want to bring those anywhere.
No, you definitely don't. Luckily, they seem to be done for the year. But Yeah. The big issue I run into here in Philly, and people come down on different sides of it as far as the listing goes, is where are you versus, and this, Alvaro, you got me thinking about this with your yard listing, is like, you have to be in your yard, or does I feel like the yard is the one, and we've talked about this a little bit before, where if a bird's just flying over, and you can see it from your yard, you count it. And like, I count like for me, if I'm in Philadelphia, and whatever I can see, like I look at everything as like, I kind of look at the yard list as the basic unit of listing, and everything goes from there. And so if I'm in Philadelphia personally, but the bird is soaring around over in New Jersey, or up above Montgomery County rather than in Philadelphia, that doesn't bother me. If I'm in Philly and I've seen it from Philly, I'll count it. And eBird protocol pretty much allows for that. So I don't, but I've had people that really, like, there's a pond in the Heinz Refuge a couple years ago, and some black-bellied whistling ducks turned up in this pond, and it's just barely outside the city in Delaware County. And I managed to find a place where through the trees I could see the black-bellied whistling ducks through a little hole in the vegetation so that I could count them for my Philadelphia list. And this was frowned upon deeply by some of my colleagues in the area here, but others, sort of saw it like I do. Point of attention.
I would, in this case, disagree with what you have done, George, because
heavens,
if your Philadelphia list, right, it's birds I have seen in Philadelphia,
from Philadelphia.
But that's not the implication when you say my Philadelphia list, right? You're saying things I've seen in this geographic thing called Philadelphia. So if the bird is outside of Philadelphia, it is not in Philadelphia, even if you saw it from Philadelphia, and even if it landed on the eBird spot of where you were, because it was never in Philadelphia.
I disagree, good sir. I disagree. For me, it's what I have documented from Philadelphia.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
But then if you're in obviously you're not in a competition for Philadelphia list, right? But let's say you're kind of comparing lists with somebody else. You've got to have that straight with the other people to sort of compare.
Well, I follow eBird protocol as far as my listing goes, and that stands me in pretty good stead.
Yeah, I can see the other side on this one, I gotta say. Because it's just a game. You saw the bird exists, and the bird should be documented and should be on eBird, all that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the game, you're watching gulls over the Niagara River, and they're crossing in between the U.S. and Canada. I think you could on your eBird list, you count them as from where you saw them, but you could actually say, I've seen that species in New York State, because you've seen it while it was in New York State, even though you weren't.
I guess for me, without an observer, if there's no observer, there is no sighting. So to me, it all comes back to where the observer is.
One thing I like about that too, well, like in your example, Alvaro, a part of West Virginia and like Ohio is the Ohio River, and the majority of the river is technically West Virginia, but then part of it, I'd have to look, however many feet is like the Ohio side. So there's subjectivity to that. You have to like guess how far out the birds are if they're sitting on the opposite bank. Where if you're just going by what you see, it's very black and white. You either saw it from the city limits or you didn't. And you're the one that's putting yourself in that position of I'm in the boundary or I'm not, and you're not guessing for the bird.
Exactly.
So here's a good one. San Francisco County, for some, historic reason, the water that is in the Golden Gate is all San Francisco County. So all the way to the Marin County side, the water is actually in San Francisco. So there was a way back when there used to be Iceland gulls, and they were different from Thayer's gulls. There was an Iceland gull that landed in that area, and people counted it for both counties depending on where it was sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was in the water, it counted as San Francisco. If it was on the land, it counted as Marin. But they were very strict about the fact that, if you just saw it swimming around in the water, you could only count it in your San Francisco County list or whatever, because of how the lines were drawn. And obviously where you were didn't change. But I think these are, in a way, these are silly questions that have deep resonance to some people's
That's right.
thoughts. I have another example. I think I talked about this one a few months ago. I photographed an Arctic loon. I didn't see it at the time. I photographed a loon thinking it was a Pacific type loon. Then later, I identified it from the photo, and it actually counts because of where it was for my 5-mile radius list, which is one that I care about, actually. So, and that's a pretty good one,
That's a great bird
Arctic
anywhere,
loon,
yeah.
So, but, the question is like, did you really see it? How can you count something you didn't see or know about? But to me, like the moment I saw the photographs, I was like, oh my God, and then I went through this process of figuring out that indeed was an Arctic loon and send it to a bunch of people and so forth. And to me, that being involved in that process of actually identifying it was satisfying in a way that allowed me to feel fine about counting a thing that I didn't know was there at the time. And I and other people in the area are like, that sounds good to me, but I think if somebody had looked at my photo, I put it online and said, that's an Arctic loon, I would have been like, oh, dang. And I wouldn't have felt comfortable with the thing because I had nothing to do in the process of figuring out what
you couldn't take ownership of the identification.
Right.
Or the detection, really. Yeah.
Or the detection.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
And some would say that's the same. It doesn't matter, right? It is what it is. And you were there and you saw and you documented it. So it should not matter, but it does matter to me. So.
So another one that's coming up more and more I see are people that have recording stations in their houses or, like for recording nocturnal migrants. And some people will do like live listening, as they're recording. And, I've seen it where in some cases somebody will be like basically lying in their bed or sitting at their desk inside listening as their microphone on the roof records migrants. And I know some folks really think that is like kind of a nebulous way to get a yard bird. Versus if you're in the field and you're like actually pointing a microphone at it, or you're actually outside, that bothers them less. And I don't know how I feel about it myself.
Yeah. Now thinking through that scenario, it would be much harder for me to count a bird that came up on the game cam. If I don't know.
Ivory-billed woodpecker
that I hadn't seen. Yeah, like an ivory-billed woodpecker. I'd struggle to count that as a life bird, although it would have photographic evidence. So.
I think that,
in fact, I might have one.
yeah. You don't have to actually have pretty good evidence to count.
Yeah, if there's, the evidence is in that you don't need good evidence to claim you've seen one. That much we know. Yeah. Anyway,
I think the people counting, if you're recording birds flying over your house and you're there sitting there listening in and you hear the thing and you're like, what the heck is that? And then later you analyze it and you figure out, oh, it was I don't know, something good, cerulean warbler or something. I feel like there's a process and you were there and you sort of if you're just recording them, you grab them next morning, that's good data for eBird or other, venues. But in terms of your house yard list, I don't think it counts.
I agree. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Except the one thing I guess is I feel like if you're like comfortably ensconced in splendor inside your house while listening as opposed to being in the field, to me, that's a little different. Like, has your field craft gotten so good that you don't really have to put in too much effort anymore? Or, like, I don't know. I feel like if you're next to your microphone, if you're outside, that's different than, being inside on a lazy boy, drinking a beer,
You have a lazy boy? That's cool.
I got a beanbag chair. That's about as close as I get to a lazy boy around here. Yeah.
So how about this? Okay. You are photographing with your old school camera setup. You photograph something good. There's a golden crown sparrow in your backyard. You can see it as you're photographing it. Takes off, never to be seen again. You never saw it with binoculars. You just saw it through your camera. I think that's pretty clear cut. You identified, you saw it. It's just like seeing it through your binoculars. Now you do the same with a mirrorless camera, where you're seeing a screen rather than the actual photons. Is that completely irrelevant? Or is it, right? It's the actual light being bent by the, the glass or whatever. And you see that in the old school rig. But in the new one, you're not seeing that. You're seeing sort of a
display, digital
display of exactly what happened. And then if that's the case, if you're okay with that, then in the future, would you allow for, like, looking through screen binoculars where you're increasing the light?
We'll get there too. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it just goes further than just now of the photons, but later you'd be able to actually see that thing enhanced, making it easier for you to identify it, but you wouldn't have back in the day because you wouldn't have been able to see it so well. What do you say to all that?
I say we tackle that in a future podcast episode.
It's too much, huh?
Yeah.
A couple decades down the road, we'll revisit that.
Yeah. I mean, it does come up a little bit now where you've got groups birding where somebody puts their phone on the scope, is digiscoping, and everybody just looks at the screen rather than looking through the scope itself. And like some people prefer that because it's like, wow, look at us. We can, it's like watching it on TV, but it's right there. Or maybe it's really far away, but you can actually see it better, this way. Whereas other people are like, well, I want to look at it through the scope. That, seeing it there is cool, but I want to see it through the scope. And I kind of get that too. I feel like, I kind of understand both sides of it. The photons thing doesn't really bother me that much because I think we're heading down that road. And, I don't think, I wouldn't let it bother me too much, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I guess, like, let's say we're in the future. I'm leading a bird trip. I've got my binoculars with my screen there, and I see Kirtland's warbler sitting there. Nobody else can see it. I don't want to move, right? I don't want to move. I'm going to lose it. But then I send everybody the image through their binos or special, like, electro binos.
You airdrop them,
and then they're all
your eye binos,
right, and they're all looking in the same direction. Maybe somebody gets a glimpse afterwards or something, classic birding, but nobody saw it as well as I did. But I have proof that it was there while they were there. Identification, they actually saw the image, but they didn't actually see the bird. They were part of the event, but not part of seeing the actual bird. What do you like? Is that just clear cut or is it not?
I don't know. Seems dubious to me as a.
I know. Yeah. But I think we're heading that way, though.
Yeah.
And, the classic, did you see it well enough for me to count it?
Right.
Will take on a different meaning, in the
Yeah.
future. So,
yeah. One of my favorite things I remember seeing on a checklist was like, old school day, pre-eBird, doing the checklist at the end of the day with the group, and next to next to one of the, like, I called out a bird, and somebody wrote next to that bird on the checklist that said LSS. And I was like, I'll ask him about that later. And I was like, so what was the LSS? And she looked at me and she goes, leader says so, which I liked. It was basically like, that leader said it was that. I saw it, but, I don't know, I'm
right.
not sure. And I was like, that's interesting as well. Some
Yeah.
people have different designations. The list is a personal thing.
Right.
That it is. I have a few countries that are filled in on my eBird map that I wouldn't say I visited, where I've had like layovers for flights. And I was there for a few hours, but I have a checklist of 4 birds. So they're filled in on that. That's another direction, which, like, they're totally on my life list. But they're not in places that I would say I visited.
Right. That you've really seen or experienced.
Yeah. I think in that those people that list countries, you cannot list an airport.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 100 Club country people or country regions or whatever. They have rules as you have to step out or get your passport stamped or whatever. But I think for an eBird map, you're fine. You saw those birds. You were there. You're geographically there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, I agree with that.
It's not like George's ducks that he didn't see.
It's totally different than that.
We're going to start something in Philadelphia. There's going to be people protesting outside your house.
Oh yeah, there's going to be
take one off your list, George.
Back to $2.99, George.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what you've done, George?
Yeah, probably not.
You
far
confessed
off.
On the air. But yeah, I think the other aspect of this whole list thing, like when people say, well, you're not that much of a lister, and why, there's multiple reasons why I like novelty and like seeing new things and all that, but I'm not really sort of keen on the numbers of the lists, other than for like game things, backyard, 5 mile radius or whatever. I did go up 2 on my chili list. I do actually like that chili list.
Yeah, we talked about that you were maybe going to get some chili birds. I am intrigued.
That's right. But the thing is too, when you're interested in taxonomy, and that house wren is actually 10 plus species rather than 1 or 2,
right.
or that certain goal, or I don't know, whatever, through the biological stuff that you're interested in, that it's more than 1 species, and yet it only counts as 1. It seems silly. You know what I mean? It's sort of, we're not dealing with the truth in a sense. We're dealing with this concoction. So it makes the list less interesting in a sense. Yet I want to see the elements of what make those multiple house wrens. I want to see those things, and they may not count, but to me, they matter, right? Like, it's not just a house wren. So the actual official numbers become less important. Obviously, it's different for a backyard. Things are a little bit more sorted out, when you're U.S. Canadian backyard, but in world travel, at least, it's a little dicier, But
yeah,
yes, I did go up too.
Yes. So it was house wren and house wren. What was this? What were the 2?
They were Patagonian tinamou and elegant crested tinamou. Minutes from each other. 30 minutes from each other. 2 birds that were kind of inaccessible, not even there when we did the Birds of Chili book. Now they're kind of becoming, they're not common, but they're super regular now.
I did not
think
realize
I mentioned that.
I didn't realize that elegant crested would be a difficult bird, but I guess there's mountains that get in the way. Well,
not there actually, but But I guess you're
generally.
right. Exactly. That's why where I saw it down in Magallanes, it's on the east side of the Andes.
Yeah.
So, but they've spread south as probably through global warming and some other aspects of changes in probably a number of sheep or something like that.
Was it a flock of 3 that you saw?
It was a flock of 3 Patagonian tinamous. Yes.
Oh, I was talking about the elegant crests, but
they're the same. Like all, they function that same 3, often in threes. The Patagonians, Puna tinamous, and the 2 crested tinamous. For some reason, almost always in threes. Like witches. Witches are in threes always. Have you noticed?
Yeah,
in Shakespeare, there's always 3 witches.
Mm-hmm.
3, it's a magical number.
Big Macbeth fan over here. Yeah. Nice. Well, we are coming up on the hour here, guys. And I'm curious what Molly Brown has on the horizon coming up. Anything particular you want folks to know about?
Good question. I don't have as busy of a November as you two, so I really don't have anything coming up. We're putting together some more co-op trips for the end of 2023, so those will be announced soon.
Nice.
And otherwise, just gearing up for a little bit of winter travel, heading to Costa Rica in December, and then Colombia in February.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And the December trip is a burning co-op trip, and
it is a co-op trip. Yep, to the Osa Peninsula. That's
going to be awesome.
It will be.
Yeah, nice. As will Colombia. We're looking forward to that as well. And that's going to be great. Yeah, Alvaro, this is interesting in that I'm going to be seeing you in person in about a week's time. So that'll be. Yeah, first time in a little stretch here.
That is true. We're going to have to figure out how to do a podcast from Ushuaia maybe before we go, and then one, after
while we're at sea. Yeah.
While we're at sea. It's too bad we didn't get to the Halloween costume stuff, but oh well. We always run out of time. I have had multiple people say to me, "Oh, I really enjoy that, the podcast and all that. And how come you guys always say, oh, we're coming up on the hour?" It's like, I want it to keep on going. And I've taken that as that somehow we're hitting a chord with some folks who want to have us keep talking. But today we cannot because
the World Series. The World Series between Houston and Philadelphia. But, a friend of mine who's a football fan always points that out. He's like, the World Series, what's that, between Cincinnati and Cleveland? A peculiar name for a sporting event. But,
you know where that comes from?
The World Series?
I actually know this.
I think I used to know this.
It was way back when baseball was sort of in the infancy, whatever. There was a newspaper called The World that decided to create a tournament of sorts that became the World Series. And it's not named for the fact that there, all countries of the world come together, but it was named for the newspaper. And obviously baseball fans are probably going, he's wrong, it's different, but that's what I heard.
That is a tidbit that is news to me. Yeah.
There you go. So you don't have to feel bad, if you were thinking like it was some kind of American kind of like, we're so insular
that's very definitely what I thought it was. Yeah.
To think that Philadelphia versus, that's the world. No, there's other places in the world like, Canada, Uganda. Yeah. So there you go. Although now it kind of is a World Series because half the players are from,
all over the place. Yeah.
Dominican Republic. So
our starting pitcher tonight is from Barquisimeto, Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Yeah. So see how Ranger Suarez does. Yeah. Well, guys, thanks much. Good talking to you guys. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks for your questions and comments. And we will be back soon with another episode of Life List. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.